Hi, Zizaran here with another league starter for the upcoming Scourge League, and this is Cold DoT, made by ShakCentral, another build collab, and he's basically a Cold DoT god. It is the #1 thing he plays it all the time, and it sort of ends up getting a buff this league, going to be a lot better for mapping, because before, it would sort of be a little bit slower with mapping with EE and stuff like that. That is no longer a problem since they removed EE from the game. But anyway, it's a really solid guide. This should be very strong for both new players, experienced players, and you'll be happy to know that for this video, we have two POBs. We have one for softcore players and one for hardcore players. The hardcore version focusing a lot more on defense and obviously less damage, and the softcore version will have less defense but a lot more damage. So you'll be able to choose which one you want depending on what league you're gonna play. So it's a really solid boss killer, decent mapper, and should be able to do most of the content in the game. Really good build. See that we have the normal like step-by-step process showing in PoB where you're allocating points at what point, so that you don't get lost, you don't get confused. We don't just show you the final tree. There's like a life tree, a CI tree, and jumping over to CI is really good. On softcore you can jump over earlier, but for hardcore I like recommend you want at least 6,000 energy shield. So like prep it all out and check it before you swap over to CI. But everything is here in Path of Building. You should be able to check it. And then we can see the hardcore soul self-on version as well. Same thing, step by step, but the trees are going to be different. Like we said, it is also going to be a lot more tanky. On the hardcore version, you will have a little bit over 1 million damage. Punishment isn't calculated in Path of Building. So basically, as soon as the monster is low life, you get a big damage boost there. And then on the softcore version, you get a little bit over 4.5 million DPS. So really good boss damage on both of these. And very tanky builds should feel nice to play as well. So for the leveling and stuff like that, there is extensive notes in the note section about exactly what you're doing for each step. So here is how you're leveling in Act 1. Here is how you're leveling in Act 2, Act 3, etc. And all your final leveling links. So go make sure you check out the notes section, and that is the same on the hardcore and the softcore version. It's basically just a skill point difference and slightly like gear difference, whether you are softcore or hardcore. Here in the early, and we try to do this for all our league starters, you can see that it is very basic gear. It is basically just life and resists. Like there's very little you need. We'd like to make sure that our league starters, they're easy, they don't require uniques to get working. That's how you know it's a solid starter, because we want to make sure that new players can make this work on a 0 budget. And then the more you put into it, the stronger it gets. And then there's like for example a starter CI. CI is really good for this build. And then an endgame CI, and obviously Rhyme Gaze is fairly common, and when you get one, there's a big boost here. And obviously you see it has loads of cold damage. It's got the cold dot multiplier, amazing helmet, and you can see all the gear even for the endgame version isn't that insane, so you can very quickly get to a point where you can do all the content. And we've seen so many content creators and stuff play builds like this and do really well with them. And we can look a little bit here on the softcore version, obviously very similar for the early life version. It's very easy in the start, just life and res, and then CI mapping for the start. And then here we have the final low life end game set, where you're using obviously things like his shavs, a presence of Chayula, and obviously this is a pricier setup. Low life is generally fairly expensive, but then you're also getting a large amount of damage. On a build like this, you'll feel really nice because it's very like high uptime damage. Now, both builds are very solid, and especially the hardcore soul self-on build has like loads of really good defenses. You can see it has a lot of physical mitigation and endurance charges. And all of this damage as well for both the builds is simulating against like Cyrus. It's like the endgame values, and as you can see, like nothing crazy is toggled on in these. Like obviously there's a lot of people doing padding on the stats to make it look like it's more than it really is, but not in this case. So it's very solid, and we hope you like the build. How is socket pressure on the build? And for the low life version, that one is going to struggle a little bit with gems. At the end, you do have to do like a Elder Unset Ring to be able to fit the clarity and stuff. The CI version, like the hardcore version, should be a lot easier to fit everything. For mana issues, honestly, there shouldn't be much mana issues at the end. You have the clarity, and between all the mana regen nodes and everythning, you're basically regenning your own pool. Early on, you're just going to use a mana flask. For useful level uniques, Rhyme Gaze is really good when you can use that, and that's like level 65, so basically early mapping. And other than that, you're looking at things like +1 cold spell skills from like Driftwood ones, and the normal level uniques like Gold Rim and Tabula and stuff like that. As far as like defense and sustain, you're basically looking at, you have a really nice like 500 ES regen. Some people like Wicked Ward, however, obviously there is the downside that the recharge rate when it finally goes off is less, and you have so much regen anyway that we're not like recommending taking that. And because you're a cultist, you get so much regen while you're killing, so like while you're actually mapping and killing, you're gonna have really high regen. And still, like the 500-600 regen you get while bossing is more than enough for most things. So as far as like financial hurdles for this build goes, the biggest thing is obviously the low life version. You're using like things like Chevron's wrappings, the presence of Chayula, and a lot more things that are only available in the end game, and also Thread of Hope. But honestly, both of these builds are pretty affordable, and obviously the SSF hardcore version is very doable in solo self-fun. So really good builds, and hopefully you guys like that we have the choice where you can do hardcore or softcore, and tailor it a little bit more to your needs, whether you want to die less or die more and have more damage. So I hope the build treats you well. Huge thank you to ShakCentral for coming up with this amazing build. Make sure you go check him out. He is league starting this build. So if you are choosing this as your starter and you need any questions, anything like that, go to twitch.tv ShakCentral and check him out, ask questions, and give him a lot of love for making these amazing guides and putting time to make this. So again, thank you to ShakCentral for doing this. If you guys like all the videos and all the build collabs, subscribe to the channel. But the most important thing of all, try to die less than I do.